Here we are, a little over 3 months into the new year. How's that New Year's resolution going for you? You know how on January 1st or 2nd, you pledge to drop a bunch of weight by going keto or carnivore or what have you, or you're going to fix the metabolic issues you have with a radical diet change. How's that going? A lot of people fail their diets at 3 months in, and last week, practically at the 3 month mark of the new year, we were all hit with a whole host of articles telling you how bad the keto diet really is. I reported on it, and I didn't really notice the significance of when it was published simultaneously in every major news outlet imaginable. But now that when we realize that we've hit that part of the year where most resolutions have failed and people think about getting back up and trying again, lo and behold, these articles are released. And then it suddenly makes sense. There's some person out there with too much money, or maybe some special interest group with too much money trying to derail your plan. They really are invested in keeping you on the processed food diet. That's why I think it's a special interest group. Case in point, vegan news outlet took part in that anti-keto propaganda last week, pushing some really tired talking points about how bad the keto diet is. Let's go over one such example how. Headline from the industry-funded propaganda outlet Vegan News. 5 reasons to forget keto and go vegan. Fad diets come and go, but a whole food plant-based diet is one to stick with for long term. Aha. Well, it's worth noting that something like 80% of people who try the vegan diet have their health deteriorate so quickly that within 3 months, they've quit and are looking for something else. Well, let me know in the comments if that was your experience, by the way, if you tried to go plant-based or vegan and everything just went wrong for you and now that's why you do carnivore or keto. This article begins by defining a keto diet, and it does a decent job of that, actually, but then it labels it as a fad diet. Keto's been increasingly popular for the past decade, and that's not the mark of a fad diet. But then the article goes into some silly claims, saying that getting into ketosis practically requires you being monitored by a professional who facilitates your diet for you. Here's an example of that nonsense. Quote, "It's effective for weight loss because it removes so many foods from the diet and is an extremely restrictive diet. Any diet that eliminates entire food groups will be weight loss inducing," Dana Ellis Hunes, PhD, MPH, RD, and all the other letters, explains to Veg News. This is not a healthy diet, however. The keto diet that sends your body into a state of ketosis isn't meant for everyday people. Physicians introduced it to the medical world back in the 1920s to treat children with epilepsy and seizure disorders, and as an adjunct therapy to reduce the risk of seizures. Not for the average person just trying to lose weight, adds Hunes. Most fad followers of a keto diet are not actually in ketosis unless they are being closely followed by a dietitian who knows how to develop a ketogenic plan. What does one eat on a keto diet? Generally, it entails a diet that is 70 to 80% fats, 5 to 10% carbohydrates, and 10 to 20% protein. According to Harvard Health, this adds up to 165 grams of fat, 40 grams of carbs, and 75 grams of protein. Put these numbers into perspective, a half a cup of cooked long-grain brown rice contains nearly 28 grams of carbohydrates, and the dietary guidelines for Americans recommend that you get around 25 to 35% of your daily calorie intake from fats. End quote. I mean, they obviously went off the rails there, and I don't know anybody who thinks that 40 grams of carbs is a good way to stay in ketosis. I mean, look, they cited the dietary guidelines for Americans, which is the U.S. government's standard American diet guidelines, which have been an unmitigated disaster for not only Americans, but for people in other countries whose governments just adopt American guidelines, and that's a lot of countries that do that. But they even say you have to get 80% of your caloric intake from fat, which is nonsense, actually. I mean, you can do that. I've done keto hovering at a 55% fat intake to protein ratio and had great success. And I know I'm not the only one, and I get more protein because I spend a lot of time in the gym. Now, it won't surprise you to learn that this article was published on the same day as the articles I detailed last week about the sudden and mysterious focus on the keto diet and how allegedly dangerous it is from mainstream media outlets that run the ideological spectrum in America. Both Fox News and CNN, for example, ran articles on how dangerous the diet is. And that's not surprising at all. And this article came out on that same day. Now, here's what they claim is dangerous about keto. See if this sounds familiar to you. Quote, "It raises quote-unquote bad cholesterol. The keto diet often encourages foods such as processed meats, fatty meats, and butter. Keto is a risk to heart health when it's extremely high in animal proteins and animal fats," says Hunes, adding that the diet can increase inflammation in the body. No, it can't. Though its exact role in heart health is unknown, inflammation is common in heart disease and stroke patients. However, this inflammation is often hidden by the fact that it is a low-calorie diet, and a low enough calorie diet can decrease the risk of increased and high cholesterol levels, adds Hunes. It can cause constipation. Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes are all rich in dietary fiber, a nutrient that helps increase feelings of fullness and aids in digestive health. But a keto diet is very low in fiber from fruits, vegetables, and grains. It is especially low in beta-glucan, a type of fiber found in grains such as barley and oats. Studies suggest that beta-glucan can also help to maintain healthy cholesterol and blood glucose levels. It may lead to nutritional deficiencies. You may be missing out on key vitamins and minerals on a long-term keto diet because it restricts so many types of fruits, vegetables, grains, and legumes. You can have greens from the cabbage family, but most other vegetables, including potatoes, are out. Avocados and lemons are the only exception for permitted fruits. So over time, a keto follower may become deficient in some nutrients. The weight loss is unsustainable. It's common for keto diet followers to experience rapid weight loss, but that's not a reason for celebration. Like many other fad diets, keto isn't meant to permanently change the way you eat. It's temporary, and followers often regain the weight they lost after going back to their regular eating habits. End quote. Okay, on fiber, one, you don't need fiber. We know that. But two, when I went keto, I got more fiber than I did beforehand because I was actually focusing on making my carbs count. I mean, the nutrient deficiency is nonsense too, but keto is a lifestyle change. They got that much right. And the same is true with carnivore. You don't do these things temporarily. We can debate the merits of the occasional cheat day, but going back to eating how everyone else eats on a daily basis is a terrible idea. Trying to go to the clean standard American diet is a terrible idea once you've lost the weight or whatever you're trying to do through keto or carnivore. There are no shortage of horror stories out there of people who did just that and found themselves sliding back into old habits and reporting that it was easier to stay on their keto or carnivore diets instead of trying to go back to a clean standard American diet. So that article got that much right, but their fifth point for why keto is dangerous is the funniest one to me because it's literally the inverse of reality. Only in Star Trek's mirror universe would this be true. Quote, "The keto diet comes with a host of other health risks, and the one that most people experience first is something called the keto flu. The keto flu is temporary, folks. Just up your salt. You'll probably be okay. Symptoms include a cloudy mind, dizziness, nausea, cramps, headache, irritability, and constipation. This condition, which is not medically recognized, is known to emerge 2 to 7 days after starting a keto diet. The cause is not known, nor is it unique to the keto diet, and many people who have drastically switched up their diet have reported similar symptoms. Additional negative side effects of a long-term keto diet suggested by studies include a higher risk of kidney stones, osteoporosis, and higher heart rates for athletes. While there is no evidence that directly ties the keto diet to eating disorders, many dietitians warn that restrictive fad diets in general can feed yo-yo dieting and disordered eating. In addition to that, because the keto diet is so heavy on animal products, it's not good for the planet either. Fact check false. Industrial animal agriculture is the culprit behind 14.5% of human-caused emissions, while a plant-forward diet puts significantly less strain on the planet. Fact check false. So if you're looking to eat more healthfully and sustainably, a whole food plant-based diet could be worth a shot. As always, any major changes to your diet should be discussed with your doctor first. End quote. You know, most doctors don't know anything about nutrition. I learned that from Dr. Ken Berry, okay? And I'm going to say this. My resting heart rate is much lower on keto and carnivore than it ever was on the standard American diet. And we know that animal-based diets are much better for the environment than industrial agriculture, especially agriculture done on the scale needed to put the majority of people on plant-based diets. Industrial agriculture is responsible for the destruction of topsoil, chemical poisoning of watersheds and coastlines, and a whole host of other environmental problems that are well documented. And doing a plant-based diet is far worse than regenerative cattle raising, which can be done to scale if need be. We just got to decentralize things. So yes, this article comes from another reality. I'm curious what you thought of that, though. Sorry if I couldn't help but laugh during it or read it in a really kind of sad-sounding voice. But we constantly get scolded by people like this about how we are the bad ones causing problems, and we're going to destroy ourselves with bad nutritional decisions. And what we really need to do is eat a lot of plant-based fake meats and soy products and other things that have no place in a human diet, except maybe in your emergency food supply on the off chance that there's a natural disaster that keeps you from the grocery store for a few weeks. Then it might be okay because it's better than nothing. But beyond that, there's no reason to touch that stuff. Let me know what you thought of this in the comments, please. Like and subscribe if you haven't. It does help, as does sharing this on social media. That helps a lot, too. I'm Anthony Stine, the Practical Carnivore. Thanks for tuning in today.